Fighting games, but with the Z-axis. Talking to the kings of Iron Fist. Today on Main Game.
Welcome to an action-packed episode of Main Game where your fists do all the talking. I'm your host, Aoife.
And I'm your other host, Larcombe, getting ready for the next battle. But cringe aside, this week's going to be laser focused on a type of fighting game genre, one that's been making the rounds as of late.
That's right, Luis. It's the 3D fighting game genre, still in style and staying strong thanks to the release of Tekken 8 earlier in January 2024. We've had an exclusive chat with the producers of the series talking about the game and its future.
Not only that, we'll be diving into the history of the genre and even have some pro tips for you if you want some help with the latest 3D fighting game right now. But let's not waste any time and head on over to our first segment, Lowdown.
Okay, so let's talk about this year's early fighting game gift to the fans, Tekken 8. Tekken 8 is a 3D fighting game that was released in late January of 2024 that takes the best martial arts around the world and put them in a ton of different and colorful casts of characters.
This iteration of the long-running series since 1994 features a new fighting system where fights go fast and combos get more frenetic. But it wasn't always that way.
How so, Luis?
Well, back in the 90s, fighting games were only 2D. It took a while and some pioneers from the last few episodes to get to using the Z-axis when it comes to fighting games. Over time, sidestepping for attacks and positioning became more of the norm, and of course, the graphics. We can't talk about the mid-90s without bringing up the 3D polygon craze.
Okay, it's not just smoke and mirrors when it comes to making fighting games 3D. Here's a deep dive into how the fighting game genre took the next step into the third dimension.
In the previous season of Main Game, we talk at length about how fighting games came to be, from Karate Champ to Street Fighter 6. The genre has gone through quite an evolution, but it wasn't just relegated to the 2D plane. Somewhere during the 90s, a good number of game developers had the bright idea of using the 3D space to make movement a bigger priority. The kind that changes the game. The kind that introduces new features and mechanics. The Z-axis brought a lot to the table, believe it or not. And it all began with a developer we talked about quite a bit. The first instance of 3D in fighting games isn't with Virtua Fighter, but with a lesser-known title named Dark Edge. Dark Edge was an early attempt at 3D fighting on a big plane of battle. Another attempt at 3D was Holosseum. Both games were terrible, but it sparked a bunch of ideas in Sega's research and development circuit. Enter Virtua Fighter. With its groundbreaking 3D graphics, its unique 3-button system, and 8-way control stick where different moves come out based on timings and positions of your selected polygon pugilist. Created by Sega legend Yu Suzuki, it was an eye-catcher of an arcade title, though it was still relegated to the 2D plane. Turns out the true 3D movement in fighting games was established by Battle Arena Toshinden, which introduced the sidestep maneuver. This allows you to avoid horizontal moves coming at you, like projectiles or long-reaching zoning attacks. Sidestepping also allows new commands and extra moves to activate during its animation, adding new properties of attacks and strategy to help make true 3D combat meaty. Subsequently, counters to sidestepping also exist, though these end up more refined in later games and iterations. You can credit developer Tamsoft for that one little move that forever shaped 3D fighting games for years to come. Namco then brought in Tekken, which just ended up being the de facto 3D fighting game in the far, far future. The first few Tekken entries featured soon-to-be staple 3D-centric special moves like the Electric Wind God Fist, sub-bosses for each of the selectable fighters to fight against, and fun juggling combo systems. Tekken had its work cut out for it during its debut. Most of the time, there were other flashier titles at that era to keep arcade goers invested, like Namco's own Soul Edge and Soul Calibur, which were 3D fighting games but used weapons instead of fists. Bloody Roar was a 1997 3D fighting game title known for its shape-shifting gameplay and fast fighting. Its cast of characters can transform into powerful furry anthropomorphic animals like wolves, tigers, and bunny rabbits, with powerful kits for combat. It was big for a while, with Bloody Roar 2 being the most popular of the bunch. The Dead or Alive series from Tecmo were popular starting in 1996 due to its fast-paced combat, its counter-attack system, destructible environments, and other features that pushed its graphics to the next level. Square Enix, the company known for that Final Fantasy RPG series, threw its hat in the 3D fighting game ring with the realistic Bushido blade, where the fighting is weapons-based and the hits are deadly. The body damage system lets you amputate body parts or decapitate foes for quick kills. Even Street Fighter got in on the 3D graphics action. It didn't do well, but at least developer Arika made a bunch of cool characters that went beyond Street Fighter and into their own brand of 3D games with 3D movement. Famous newsmaker fighting game series Mortal Kombat also went 3D with Mortal Kombat 4 and the PlayStation 2/Xbox era MK games, with sidestepping and stance-changing gimmicks galore. They're also not that good, and were only remembered for their ludicrous characters and minigames. Over time, the 3D fighting game genre just ended up growing and growing, taking over 2D fighting games at one point. New gimmicks and features were introduced. Ex-developers from legacy franchises spun off to make their own version of a 3D fighting title, but failed. Some franchises just stuck to their big guns and still continued on. Most of them stayed stagnant, while others, like Tekken, still trudged on. Though we won't be hearing the last of Sega's 3D fighting game brainchild. It would be sad if the company's last output was Virtua Fighter 5 Final Showdown. As great as the Tekken games are, competition does help make the scene less stagnant and innovation to brew further. In any case, 3D fighting games are still popular, despite the obvious monopoly at this current age. Let us not forget a time when this subsection of the fighting game genre was brimming with insane ideas and gimmicks.
That was a great recap of 3D fighting games from the 90s to the now. It's good to know that fighting games can level up beyond the 2D plane.
That is correct. But do you recall any 3D fighting games off the top of your head that you've seen in arcades during the 90s or even 2000s?
Well, I'm not sure if it counts, but we can recall Capcom releasing a 3D fighting game title called Power Stone and Power Stone 2. Imagine a fighting game with two or more opponents, then fighting each other in an arena space. Your characters can collect the titular Power Stones and become super-powered versions of themselves.
I mean, that is definitely a fighting game, though not a conventional 1v1 style title. Arena fighters are subsections of the fighting game genre, where you have free reign to move around as you please, just like the game Bushido Blade, which we touched upon in the previous video.
I guess it really depends if the fighting game community worldwide want to commit to such titles. So far, they are comfortable with the 2D and 3D fighters, not so much the arena fighters.
It all really depends on the developer's intent. Power Stone wasn't meant for serious competitive play, despite what people may tell you. On the flip side, a game like Tekken 8 or Tekken 7, they were built for competition in mind, hence the replay function and the heavy tutorial sections and tools.
Okay, speaking of Iron Fist tournaments, how about we take a break before we resume our main game 3D fighting tournament arc? Don't go anywhere, gamers. We'll be right back after these commercials. Welcome back, main gamers. So, Bandai Namco took the fighting game world by storm with the Tekken series. Let's find out more about how the series has evolved and what the future holds beyond the 8th mothership title.
During our captivating lowdown segment, we delved into the intricate nuances distinguishing 2D fighters from their 3D counterparts. While Virtua Fighter initiated the genre's journey back in the 1990s, it was Tekken that truly pioneered its evolution. However, the franchise's latest iteration, Tekken 8, stands apart from its predecessors in significant ways. The visionaries behind the game have made a bold decision to prioritize home console and PC releases over arcade, making a notable departure from tradition. Moreover, Tekken 8 boasts a revolutionary departure from its predecessors, as it was meticulously crafted from the ground up. But let's hear it from one of the brilliant minds behind the groundbreaking creation, the one and only Michael Murray.
Then we totally recreated the game from scratch. All of the assets, the character models, the environments, all of the things that you see with Tekken 8 were created newly for this game. Also, it's the first time that the title's being released on home consoles first without seeing the arcade release prior to that. So that's a big turning point for the franchise as well. And then on top of that, we're also using Unreal Engine 5, which is, there's not a whole lot of titles out currently that have adopted that and released. So Tekken's one of the few of those. And then also from the battle system, that's been reworked quite a bit for Tekken 8, focusing on the concept of being aggressive and rewarding players who have an aggressive playstyle. So that kind of dictates the new battle system components, etc., such as the heat system, which is brand new for Tekken 8. So you want to go on the offense as much as you can, and you can also use these heat mechanics to kind of open up holes in your opponent's defense to make it easier for you to go on the fence. But it also has been tailored to make each of the cast, the 32 characters, even more unique with their abilities and strategies available to them when they engage heat.
With the game now available, we seized the opportunity to inquire about his aspirations for the game's future evolution.
We can't really promise anything, but just some of the things that we're thinking that we would like to do is to kind of maybe expand the functionality of the Tekken Fight Lounge. Currently you go there to hang out with other people and chat and do matches, etc. But maybe some kind of other ways to enjoy the game in Tekken Fight Lounge, or some other kind of cool collaborations with outside companies there might be nice. So there's a lot of different things we're thinking of. But then also, for people who really aren't caught up on the Tekken news, we've already announced a new character coming post-launch, Eddie Gordo. And other stuff that Tekken's typically, how we've added characters and such post-launch. That's obviously something we'll continue to do. But outside of that, like the Tekken Fight Lounge.
In a realm evolving at breakneck speeds, we ponder the trajectory of 3D fighting games. But how does the team envision the genre's progression? And what role does Tekken 8 play in shaping that future?
Virtua Fighter is the game that really kicked off 3D fighters, right? Obviously, I don't think anyone will dispute that. But if you're looking at the current landscape, it's pretty much only Tekken really that's had consistent releases and with a new title announced and post-launch support, etc. So although we'd like to see something new from Koei Tecmo with the Dead or Alive series or Virtua Fighter from Sega. Currently we haven't seen anything announced, so it's mostly 2D fighters, right? Because 3D, having the 3D coordinates and all the development that's involved with creating a 3D fighting game is quite intense for not just major corporations, but also if you look at 2D fighters, there's kind of indie people who create their own fighters or people who just for fun, because it's much easier. You don't see that coming. You don't see those kind of groups creating 3D fighters because of how much it takes to do that. So creating the character models and environments that can be viewed at any angle, etc. Making sure all the hit, collision, all that works is just so intensive for smaller groups like that. So it's hard to see that changing. The only thing he can say is that he hopes to see more from those two companies we just mentioned. So unfortunately, maybe it's just Tekken for the foreseeable future, right?
Undoubtedly, Tekken 8 stands as the pinnacle of the team's accomplishments, forged through decades of perseverance and dedication. The blood, sweat and tears poured into this project by the talented individuals at Bandai Namco are evident, and the soaring popularity among streamers just goes to show that their hard work paid off.
And that was an in-depth look at the Tekken series, one of the pioneers of 3D fighting games next to Virtua Fighter, Soul Calibur and Toshinden. Luis, how is it like interviewing our guests?
Honestly, it was an absolute privilege. I am actually lucky enough to have interviewed Michael Murray once before in Thailand last year at Thailand Game Show. We did ask a lot of the same questions, but this time around he was a lot more insightful and decided to go a lot more in-depth on his answers as well.
Okay, well, if you want to see the whole interview in its raw and long form, head on over to Kakuchopurei's YouTube page. Any final thoughts before we move on to our next segment, Luis?
Well, after talking to our guests and also checking out the history of 3D fighting games, while not getting distracted by the Dead or Alive games for obvious reasons, I do have more respect than usual for the subgenre. 3D is not an easy space to work with. There's a lot of skill involved when positioning characters when fighting, and having simple inputs for moves doesn't equal an easy victory. You have all sorts of attacks to keep in mind, like homing attacks, vertical and horizontal attacks, sidestep attacks and counters, low parries, and so forth.
Okay, so will you be going pro in Tekken anytime soon?
I may have the game with me, but thank you for the review codes, Bandai Namco, but unfortunately I'm still learning the ways to juggle and abuse the heat system of the game.
Well, fret not, Luis, as the next segment may up your Iron Fist fighting game. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks, faster than you can pull off an electric wind godfist. And we're back on main game. As we've said earlier, Luis, you may want to pay attention to the next segment.
And why is that, Aoife?
Because we have some high-level Malaysian players with tricks of the trade for the latest 3D fighting game right now, Tekken 8. Let's roll out the climax of today's main game tournament arc.
Tekken 8 is 2024's biggest 3D fighting game, featuring a huge roster of characters with diverse fighting styles, from petite girl kung fu to John Wick butt kicking to the right to bear arms. All in all, it's a fun time whether you're a beginner or a Tekken longtime fighter since Tekken 7. So naturally, if you're the former, the online and offline player versus player scene can be unforgiving and brutal. Sure, the game's major tutorial and arcade quest mode will teach you a lot of moves, but why not get some advice from the pros? Here are a few tips and tricks from our local champions in the world of Tekken 8.
Okay, the easiest characters in Tekken 8 that you can actually pick up, which are considered as beginner friendly, will be Law, Paul and Asuka. They are really beginner friendly because the combos are easy, the launches are easy to get by. The mechanics for these characters are really simplified, so anyone can just pick them up and just go into the game.
For me, the easiest character you should play was Paul, Jack and Dragunov, because it doesn't require any hard executions and it's more to straightforward character. I think Azucena is the most accessible character because the way they introduced the new character was beginner friendly and not hard to play. For example, she has a really good counter hit moves, which is you don't need any notations, and then really accessible low attack as well. So for me, Azucena is much more easy character to learn as a beginner friendly character.
You will always need to be focused when it comes to tournaments. You have to really be focused mentally and physically, because if you slack off even by a bit, it's going to cost you a lot. Always do labbing. Always lab any other characters that you don't know the matchups. This will help you considerably when it comes to playing against characters which are not yours.
For me, I think first of all is fundamentals, which is you need to master the movements, the pokes, and the character knowledge. Second one is adaptation, which is you need to remember all your character matchups, and also you need to know their surroundings as well. And then the third one was you need to know that your own character as well, at least for like one or two characters, for sure to secure your winnings. So for example, while I was playing Fang, I'm more to play aggressive rather than I play defensively, and I know the certain matchups with my own character rather than other characters as well.
We hope these tips and tricks from Malaysia's top Tekken 8 players can help level up your game, whether you're playing casually or on a high level. Keep practicing, and maybe you might be the region's next king of the Iron Fist tournament.
And those were some great tips from Malaysia's finest Tekken 8 pro players. Which groups are they actually representing, Luis?
Well, Ashinomori represents REF, while Fate represents MYFGC. There are a lot more players in the Malaysian and Southeast Asian circuit who are established, like Book and AK.
And on the international front, we have Arslan Ash from Pakistan, Olsen from Korea, CBM from Korea, Junding from Korea, and Ni, well, from Korea. Wow, okay, it seems like there's one country dominating the Tekken global scene.
Well, technically two actually, South Korea and Pakistan. The two countries are known for their 3D fighting game players. On a related note, we did interview Book in last seasons of Main Game, and we also interviewed Arslan Ash about Tekken 7 and Tekken 8, which you can check out the video for that on our YouTube channel. And since we're close to the end of our tournament arc, you know what that means?
Contest time! Here is our contest question for this episode, okay? Are you guys ready? The question is, who are the leads in Tekken 8 we interviewed on this episode? I repeat, who are the leads in Tekken 8 we interviewed on this episode? So all you have to do is send in your answers to Kakuchopurei's Facebook and Instagram page on the post that will go on live later today. Winners will get an awesome gaming prize listed on the page.
That's Kakuchopurei, spelled Kakuchopurei. And with that, we'll be wrapping up our personal Iron Fist tournaments. Hope you've learned a thing or two about 3D fighting games today. I'm your co-host Lewis Larcombe.
And I'm your host Ifa Hazim. Thank you so much for watching, and remember to always sidestep away from danger, strike hard and strike fast. No mercy. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.